I'll be the first to admit it. I have what some might consider an unhealthy obsession with the Zed Technician line of indie horror titles. Though it's been a long time since we last got to visit this strange and fascinating world of bite-sized horror comedies and working-class plus-sized furries. And, to answer your question preemptively, no, I don't actually know anything that you guys don't already. While our beloved game dev has been cool enough to answer some questions for me in the past and even been my living walkthrough and guide for when I was stuck on some of the bit more no titles, I don't have round-the-clock access to command their attention on a whim. I only emphasize this because a number of you have reached out to me on Twitter asking if I knew where he's been over the past year and change, and sadly, I don't. I can only hope that he returns soon. But, to tide us all over, I elected to create this handy-dandy guide so you guys can challenge these games for yourselves. Some of these games do demand certain levels of mechanical skill, so I am here to teach you all I have learned so you can master the games for yourselves. Let's get started. To get us started, we're going to tackle these games in their release order as they're listed on Zed Technician's itch.io page. This also means that we are not going to do the Bit More Knows 1 and 2. They're unlisted and I'd like to abide by the game devs say on the matter. So the first game we'll be touching on is actually the Bit More Knows 0. This game forces us into the role of Sandra, taking up her defense against a strange forest creature until sunrise when she can safely make a break for it. There's 3 main rules to keep in mind. First, the rearview mirror is not really a mirror at all. It's a camera. If you see in the mirror he's approaching from one side, it's actually going to be the opposite side. I can't fully explain the why, but that is how it works. So respond accordingly. Second, the bullets matter. You only have so many. You want to make sure that they're being used efficiently as a result. You have some room for error. You can probably fumble a shot 2 or 3 times and still expect to clear a run. However, if you fire like a madman or empty rounds into the passing deer too often, you will put yourself into an unwinnable situation. Rule 3 is how the enemy attacks. The creature will approach from either side, behind, or above you, lacking only the windshield itself as direct access to your vehicle. Once at a door, it will slowly attempt to open it, giving you a small window of time to put a slug into the creature and send it scurrying back into the forest. I'm unsure if the creature teleports between its approaches, but I do know that there's only just one, so if you can eyeball it from between the trees, then you stand to head off future approaches, but don't feel like you can rely on that particularly extensively. The next major hiccup is Sandra will start to nod off at about the halfway point through the night, and you will be forced to mash the spacebar to rouse her back up and into action. Tapping preemptively does not help. Believe me, I tried. You just need to be ready to mash it at any time once you get the warning that it's going to become a problem. There does seem to be a luck factor involved in this, as it seems random as to when Sandra will start nodding off, but poor timing might condemn an otherwise competent run, but don't get too discouraged. You only need to survive till sunup, and you'll get the game's only ending. Next up is The Man from the Window, the game that likely is the reason you know about these games at all. This game doesn't require the twitch reflexes of the Bit More Knows 0, but it will require you to complete your pre-flight checklist, so to speak. After a prologue and Mama Rabbit reading the book that explains the man's MO, the game begins without too much fanfare. Before I go any further, it is important to know, in every single Zed Technician game where time is a factor, any timers will pause during dialogue boxes. If a character is speaking, there's no need to rush to the prompts unless you're attempting some kind of speedrun challenge. The point is that we need to get Mama Rabbit and Junior Rabbit into safe hiding places and prepare for the man's break-in. We need to stall him for 5 minutes to declare victory, regardless of how far along he is in his process. But the clock doesn't begin till she puts the book down. If you forget any details, you can press tab to access Mama Rabbit's inventory, though she will never have more than 2 items on hand at most. The first thing to do is to check which hiding spots in the story are listed last in the book. These are announced in random order with a few checks to ensure there's no unwinnable configuration. See, of the hiding spots, some can be used by either Junior or Mama, those being the bathtub and under the dining table, and some are Junior only, under the sink in the bathroom, under the bed in the bedroom, and the fridge in the kitchen/living room area. The last 2 hiding spots will always include at least 1 hiding spot that Mama can use. What you need to do next is subtly hinted at during the prologue, but you need to go to the dining table first and foremost to collect the keys that Mama set on the table. These will prove extremely helpful in just a moment. Next, address the box of donuts and open the box, but leaving its contents untouched. You have the option of eating them, but it's just schmuck bait. Next, you want to check the couch in the living room. At the cost of a little time, Mama can move it against the door. Go ahead and accept. This is a crucial preparation step. Tab over to the keys and click on the front door to lock it. Next, recall the hiding spots we talked about earlier and what order the book put them in for your current playthrough. This is randomized each time. Square Junior away first in either the penultimate or final hiding spots of the list. Close and lock any doors you need as you move Mama to her hiding spot. Even if you don't need to access them, go ahead and lock all the doors, that being the front door, the bedroom door, and the bathroom door. Let me reiterate because this is a helpful thing to know. Do this even if you don't otherwise need to use them in any other way. This will serve to slow the man down on a regardless basis. The final step will be hiding Mama herself. Once you do this, or the timer runs out, the man will begin his inspection of the house. If you did all the instructions correctly, the man will be delayed by the locks, couch, donut distraction, and any locked doors he's forced to contend with, which ought to be at least one additional one, including the front. He will run out of his 5-minute time limit and surrender, forcing him to ditch the house and leaving Mama and Junior safe and their house a little bit more disorderly. For now. That guides us into Beware the Shadow Catcher. We get introduced to Sam and Maud and the Shadow family, and we're told our task. Make the customers the meals they order, and stay alive. If you select easy mode, they'll order like normal, reasonable people, but really, where's the fun in that? In normal mode, they explain that to directly name the food item they want is very bad luck in their culture, so they'll instead give you 3 hints each as to what they want, and by process of elimination, you should be able to parse what it is they want. These will be randomly selected each time you play, and the cookbook in the kitchen lists the recipes and precisely what you need to do. You have bottomless stashes of all ingredients to make everything. As an aside, and this could just be RNG, I've played through the game multiple times and I never once had anyone ever order the veggie lasagna, but whatever. The biggest point of confusion one might encounter is in the pancakes dish. The cookbook mentions the batter used contains eggs, so keep that asterisk in mind and you should be able to figure out what's being asked of you relatively easily. Other than the prep phase, the biggest thing will be moving Maud and Sam to keep them safe all 3 nights. Sam is both smaller and faster than Maud, easily able to make a break for the counter and back again in order to deliver the dishes, and if she's crouching in the space between where the Shadow family is sitting and the next booth over, she's in a safe zone with no chance of being spotted. This means that the optimal solution is to have Maud handle as little as possible. She needs to remain in the cover of the kitchen, only exposing herself to harm as necessary to complete a dish and drop it off on the window for the handoff. Sam should then be the one to bolt over and finalize the delivery. During play, you'll have the option of running to the front door to check to see if the shadow catcher is approaching you. But I've never found this particularly helpful. It's a big gamble that essentially hinges on 2 subsequent smaller gambles right after. Is he coming? And can Sam get to safety in time? The glass at the front of the restaurant is somewhat see-through, and Sam, especially from the safety of her crouched hiding spot, can see him approaching in many cases, so toggling between the 2 ladies is a good way to recon the situation instead. Maud is significantly larger and markedly slower moving than Sam, but so long as you keep her out of the window when the shadow catcher comes in, she'll be completely safe for the first 2 nights. However, she must put herself out in the open to check the cookbook and prep most of the food. It's a diner after all. But it's a key point to stress. The nights do not have time limits. Stay hidden, stay safe, take your time, and hedge your bets. On night 3, Maud will need to be significantly more cautious, as the shadowy far wall of the kitchen becomes a danger zone the catcher can use to peek in at her. I recommend opening the fridge doors and hiding behind them, especially if he's been unusually quiet for some time. Speaking of, the shadow catcher makes a great deal of noise. His footfalls are very different from Sam and Maud's, and so you should be able to get useful information just by listening. He can approach in a number of different ways. Strolling up to the door like he owns the place, charging in at full sprint, crawling like a worm, which muffles his footsteps, and sometimes sneaking his way to the kitchen access as mentioned, but he'll only try that on night 3. If he does, he'll stick his head in to say hello before his sweep mechanically begins, and this gives you a small chance to book it for cover. Once he completes a check, he will do one of several things, seemingly at random. He will leave and wait a while before checking in again, or sometimes travel halfway back and then double back to the door to check again in quick succession. On occasion, he'll just linger by the door, which is visible through the window, and check back almost immediately after an initial pass. He's tricky, and you can only track him at certain times, so when in doubt, stay hidden and let him have a pass before you resume. Impatience is your enemy here more than the shadow catcher. Deliver the 3 completed dishes for each night, and you'll wrap it up and get the best ending in no time. Next is the Vermander Curse, and not the Curse of J.P. Vermander, which is the name I insisted on calling it for reasons not known to me. Yes, that game puts us in charge of Dr. Ida and Nurse Morton, who oversee their current stay of 3 patients, Lang Boyd, Jane Doe, and Tammy Giles. The rooms they're stationed in are randomized in each playthrough, so you'll want to check the clipboard and pay attention during the prologue bits when Dr. Ida is explaining the situation. When you receive the phone call from a distressed Hannah about the incoming demon problem, you need to focus on what instructions she gives you as the night goes on, as threats will emerge 1 rotation at a time. The key rules here to follow are ensuring you're back in the lobby on time and that all proper doors are closed. You can, and probably should, leave open doors to any rooms lacking an occupant. This will allow you to perform threat assessment much more expediently. Patient doors need to remain shut once you've entered and sized up what's happening in each. It's also important to speak with the patients, not only for the game's top-notch characterization, but also because both Lang Boyd and Jane Doe will require additional medication before the long night is over with, and failure to deliver will result in them being found by the literal, actual demon. In addition, Tammy will occasionally meander out of her room and can be found in any number of places in her inebriated state. So be sure you're making it a point to check on her, lest her wanderlust put her in some place unexpected, like the bathrooms or the waiting room, which is basically the only mechanical consideration that game will hold in the entire game. But this event is somewhat random. So be on top of it and mind your bedside manner. In addition to the patient rooms, be sure you're checking the bathrooms, break room, and operating rooms as well, as they can be affected by any number of the demon's conditionals, even if they lack windows or a TV in them. In the final run of the night, you'll be obligated to go to the very end of the hallway in order to snuff out the last dark candle, so be thorough, be quick, and mind your tasks carefully. If you do all this, you'll clear the game with its best ending, so sit back and enjoy it. Next up is Midnight Maid Night, where 2 maids, Harpy Naomi and Roach Ruth, go to move boxes and items out of an estate to be put up for sale the next day. There, they are greeted by Joseph Vermander, former owner of the estate, and given a summary of their tasks. Collect items into boxes, and then find and move out any boxes already filled to their van. Simple, right? Well, maybe not. Let's go over the threats to the task before getting to the task itself. Joseph's father, Jeremiah Vermander, stalks the halls. When the candles turn blue, you're to duck into a hiding spot. A small animation will play, and then you're clear to resume your task. If he catches you, it is a game over condition, but the game is also pretty generous in giving you a window of time in order to find a hiding spot. These hiding spots are in every room, but not the hallways. There is one particular hallway on the far western side of the mansion, and there is absolutely no reason you should ever be there. There are no rooms, no hiding spots, and all it will do is link the ritual room to another hallway down the way, where a much safer parallel hallway already exists to serve the same function. During my Let's Play video, I nicknamed it the Death Hallway because it caused many close calls in my run and ultimately was part of the time sink in exploring the mansion. Anyway, the next threat is the old butler Cornelius. However, he is likely a threat you will never actually encounter if you're trying to play the game properly. He can only appear in the open front yard area where you go to drop boxes off, and will only spawn if you camp there a while. There is literally no reason that he should become a real threat to your progress. Even if, for some reason, he is, he can't end your run, at least not directly. But you will lose precious time if he attacks you, so be mindful of that. The last threat is Agatha, who will spawn into the same room as you with an audible whoosh sound effect. Quickly scan the room. She might be hiding in shadow, but her eyes glow and her large white teeth are very visible more often than not. Simply place your aiming reticle on her and she'll retreat. I don't remember the consequences of her attack, but as an aside, if she and the Elder Vermander threaten you simultaneously, prioritize Big Daddy and hide. She'll automatically despawn during this time, even if you elect to ignore her. Anyway, onto the strategy portion. There's a map in the first room of the mansion, and I suggest you take some time to study it. I also suggest you load up on boxes. Ruth, being a giant cockroach, can carry up to 4 boxes at a time, and to start, you probably should. In the optimal playthrough, you'll want to clear all the loose individual items first, so I recommend making a beeline to the dining room. It's a straight line from the entry room, and it has a lot of little items, easily filling 2 to 3 boxes on its own. Then, you'll want to either head out and either west towards the ritual room, which also has a lot of small items, or east to the living room and bathroom to collect the small number of items in each. If you're uncertain, ask Naomi. In fact, you should be checking in with her often in order to gauge progress as you go. She's more than a flashlight holder, she's there to help. You also want to clear the library quickly. It's full of books and a singular candle that need collecting. The ritual room, in the southwest corner, has skulls and candles and plenty of both. Once you clear those rooms out and check the workbench where the boxes are stored, Ruth will make a comment that the boxes are no longer needed. If, at that point, she doesn't, then something's gone wrong. Double check dining room, living room, bathroom, ritual room, library. Afterwards, abandon all the boxes in your possession and start collecting the pre-packed boxes from each room and verifying they're cleared out on the map in the front. Moving in a clockwise or counterclockwise motion around the mansion should be thorough and efficient enough to put a ribbon on it, netting you the game's good ending. Next is Artifacts in Antiquity, a sort of turn-based puzzle game. Once the story gets underway, with Gracie joining Miss Faye and Mike in the warehouse, a universal timer is set. You're then told you need to recover 7 artifacts of old, and are assisted by the goddess who goes by the nickname, Nameless. A round constitutes an artifact being spawned in, and you navigating your coworkers through the warehouse and avoiding the threats that spawn in, and then returning in the same fashion. Your role in all this, as Gracie, is to navigate your friends. Let's quickly assess said threats. The first is a sentinel, a shadowy fellow wielding a spear and a shield with white pinprick eyes. He will generally be obvious with just a quick glance and should never pose a real threat, as he usually stands in places on the camera where he'll stand out. Next is the assassin, who is similar at first blush, but he has 2 things that make him stand out. First, his eyes are red, which in some ways makes him easier to notice than the sentinel, and he tends to try to blend into the shadows more, tending more to the corners of the camera's view. Lastly is the priest, whose trick is a little more dastardly, as he'll be invisible until you hold up Nameless's Ankh at him. So long as you have it in your hand, he'll become visible, so you need to juggle your tools a little to ensure safe passage. Speaking of, and I apologize, this comes off as a little racist to our good buddy Mike, don't use Mike. Look, I get it, he's a shadow person, but all 3 of the threats are also black silhouettes. It is super easy to confuse them, especially as the threats don't move, excepting 2 specific events: when a new artifact is selected, and after picking up said artifacts and beginning the return trip to safety. But therein lies the rub. Mike looks the same as the threats. So use Miss Faye. She stands out way more, and thus is much safer to ferry her, to safety both ways. While the immediate movement and threat assessment is easy, there's more against you than just that. Technically, there's no issue with halting movement to study the cameras, but there is that universal timer in play, necessitating swift, deft movements and several things that can go wrong, especially when you gather more of the artifacts together. First, at any time during the night, the entire security system will glitch out, the monitors will flicker in and out. You'll need to just run back to the front room and interact with the PC there. You can tap in anything as a password, just face roll the keys, it'll work. Next, cameras will become jammed and overlaid by eyeballs staring you down. Holding the Ankh in their general direction is what will clear them out. Likewise, a hand will sneak in through the side window to sap remaining time of the hourglass and can be fended off with the Ankh as well. Obviously, these will not be happening until you're given the Ankh in the first place, but the threats here are real. If time runs out, you lose, no matter how many artifacts you've managed up to that point. But keep an eye on things and keep Miss Faye on a clear path to and from the containers, and rely on Nameless for those hints, and you'll do just fine. Next up is No Strings Attached. Maggie, the 3-eyed lady here, oversees her hotel as it's stalked by an intruder who has placed a hint-filled box in each room. The sequence is randomized and you must move room to room, looking for the room each box subsequently sends you to, as each has a minor difference from the others to make it stand out. For example, one hint is, "It's dark outside," and refers to the room with the open and very dark blinds in it. You'd open that box and follow the hint within. It's important to note the hints are very literal-minded. Your biggest pitfall here is probably overthinking it. The game is also on a relatively strict timer, and the play area is small, but once you get a sense of things and what each hint is asking of you, it should be easy. I think the most obscure hint is 8 missing legs, which is in reference to a room missing 2 normal chairs, or the bad luck hint, which necessitates going into the bathroom to check for a cracked mirror. Otherwise, just stay on the move and keep your short-term memory primed, and you'll clear this one in no time. The Man from the Window 2 takes what we learned from the first game, but expands on it in two ways. First of all, there are two phases for our task. First is reconstructing the book, which has been damaged by the man before its delivery. Half the pages are torn out, and unfortunately, it's kind of the important half. You'll need to scour the apartment for lost pages, some of which are inexplicably within the unit before the book itself is. You'll also want to check the potential hiding spots, so anything you can open really, as it might have a page in there as well. At least one will be outside the apartment too, so check the hallway and stairwell, and there may even be two in the event you're in hard mode, as I believe one will always be attached to the front door of the complex furthest from your start point. Even if you're unsure if you got them all, drop them back into the book. It will tell you if anything's still missing. If so, double check around. If not, we proceed to Phase 2, the riddle. Here's where the sequel deviates in a big way from the first. Whereas in the first game, every single possible hiding spot is always accounted for, and stall tactics were a huge part of how to win, in this case the book will overlook a small handful of spots to hide in. In normal difficulty, we'll overlook 4 of them, allowing Grandmama Rabbit and Audrey 2 different hiding spots each. In hard mode, only 2 hiding spots will be ignored by the book, 1 for each of them. You'll want to pay attention, as sometimes the details you're told when looking at the hiding spot influences how the book addresses them. You need to, first of all, shutter all the windows. Failure to do this will result in him seeing what you're doing and instantly acting accordingly, netting you a fail condition. Then, hide Audrey first in her spot, then place Mama Rabbit in her own. All going well, the man will barge in, making it irrelevant as to whether you lock the door or not, and will run out of the places to check before the timer forces him away, which results in the ending. If you clear hard mode, you'll even get the extended ending with a bit more dialogue, so feel free to challenge yourself. The Fish's Tale places us in the role of 2 playable characters, Monica the Witch and Angela the Anglerfish. Each has a role to play, and the game will automatically toggle between them as their roles become important to the progression. Monica explains her job is to put the giant fish back to sleep to prevent its hitchhiking parasites from attacking the area. So the first phase is using Monica's laptop to check the recipes for the 5 chains and the order they must be forged in. Simply follow the recipes exactly, and try to be quick about it. Unlike Beware the Shadowcatcher, there's no real cooking sequence. Just dump what you need in the bowl and mash it together, then deliver it to the cauldron barrel. Check your notes, be thorough, and Monica should complete her task safely and effectively. It's important to note that she is never in any actual danger, even as the game shifts between the 5 chain phases, so just focus on her job and you'll be fine. The challenge, however, stems from the very kinetic running segments when control swaps over to Angela. The upside to being an anglerfish is the fact that she has a built-in light, which shines around her immediate area so you're never trapped in the dark. The downside is literally everything else. While the first dash is just to get you associated with it, the actual mechanical skill and risk all lie in this phase. Angela is given 2 things, an amulet that can fire a limited number of laser beams to drive off the parasites that attack, and directions from the cauldron. There's a few rules you'll need to know. First, the first choice will always be one of 2 directions around Monica's house. The third path leads to an Easter egg where you can meet Sandra from the Bit More Know Zero and Monster from the same, now known as Rex. You will never need to go that way, but it's super cool that it was included anyway. That said, next thing to know is that the roads are not randomized in the sense of their physical layouts. The map itself is the same every single time you play. However, the road names are randomized, and this is going to complicate things as the roads do not interconnect across every possible path. Put a simpler way, there is one way and only one way to each branching path, ending with a chain awaiting you. Going the wrong way will magically whisk you back to the start and recharge your amulet, so ultimately you'll only lose time. In normal mode, you do have room to make some mistakes. In hard mode, a little less so try to keep on your task efficiently. I find it helpful to jot the road names and reference them as I'm going, especially as additional longer paths, this becomes almost mandatory. To get the best bang for your buck with the amulet, you can fire it and swing the mouse left or right to effectively slash the beam, potentially hitting multiple targets in one go. In the final run, and the longest, the amulet will enter into a supercharged state, and shots will slowly restore themselves whenever it's not currently being fired. The game doesn't draw your attention to this, and you'll probably be too busy running for your life to see it consciously, but that is how it works. Use it when you need to use it. Conserving ammo is not really a concern for most of your runs. Just make sure you hit when you do. Follow the paths, you'll find all 5 chains in no time, and wrap the game up. The Warning Watch introduces us to Deborah and Sammy, and not gonna lie, wife. Anyway, she's forced to work on night job and survive a monstrous, possibly demonic invasion, which really is just the way of the world today, isn't it? The game alternates 2 major actions necessary for the player to proceed, doing your job and defending yourself. For your job, Deborah needs to scroll through the items on screen, conveniently alphabetized for your consideration. There are, indeed, 26 items spread out across 2 columns placed on either side of the monitor. You want your list to match the one presented. Now, they don't need to be in the exact same order. It just needs to be the correct items and the correct quantities. If you make 3 mistakes, your game is over on grounds that Deborah gets fired via an automated HR email, so don't do that. You'll only mess this up if you're rushing, and yes, you are on a time limit and you do want to move quickly. However, don't think that you have no time at all. Use what you have constructively and consistently, and you will be perfectly fine. You'll periodically be interrupted as the lights will flicker. At this time, Deborah needs to step away from her computer and begin threat assessment. As the night goes on, there will be additional steps added, one by one. In no particular order, the things Deborah will need to concern herself will include making sure the windows and front door are locked, that all the water taps, bathroom and kitchen alike, are turned off, and that the front door is freshly salted. Yes, seriously. Done correctly, the lights will cease flickering, inviting you to return to your desk and resume working. See, Deborah's house is kind of shaped like the number 9, with her front door opening into the kitchen and living room area on each side. So you can easily create a circuit through the house, checking her room, the guest room, bathroom, hallway, kitchen, front door, den, and back around to the hallway while inspecting for these signs of attempted intrusion on the demon's part. I read somewhere at one point that there's a bug where the bar that blocks the back door will never result in a game over condition, but I strongly recommend to disregard that advice for one key reason. When all threats are corrected, the lights stop flickering, indicating that you're in safe mode. Ignoring a threat deliberately might result in you overlooking something else at the same time and losing that way instead. It may take practice, and the game has many fake-out moments to throw you off, but follow these steps and learn the layout of both the job interface and the house, and you'll be well on your way to securing the good ending. Next up is Captain Warrington's play maze, and the game begins by showing the boy, Albert, getting lost in the colorful play maze area. While you do play this moment, there's no mechanics or threat, so just follow instructions and the brief tutorial, and you'll soon start the game proper. The real meat and potatoes begins by offering you a choice of 2 playable characters that have different perks. Ashley the waitress, who is physically faster, and Penny the manager, who is able to parse wrong path splits as she approaches them with a colored arrow that will show her the correct choice. Which one is best is a little luck reliant, as the 2 mazes randomly generated in each playthrough, but some rules will stay the same throughout. You'll be put on a 12-minute timer while going through the maze, constantly counting down as you're moving throughout, and some things can cause time penalties, but I'll get to that in just a moment. The better part of the maze is really straight tubes, so hold shift and run, or really fast crawl in this context, your way through. Like all Z Technician titles, there's no stamina limitations, despite the main character's physiques, so you may as well haul all the way. The advantage Ashley has is she will clear these segments very quickly and very consistently. I'm generally of the opinion this does make Ashley the slightly easier option, especially for newcomers, but the choice will ultimately come up to you. Every so often you'll encounter either split paths, where one has a possible dead end and the correct path lays opposite that. You will naturally lose time for an incorrect choice, so if many of these manifest during a playthrough, it's actually better to be Penny, who will trivialize them and always take the proper route the first time. Hence the "this is a little luck-reliant" comment from a moment ago. Also possible to appear are puzzle rooms. Basically, there's 4 types of puzzles: basic math, shapes, counting sequence, and negation. Basic math puzzles are, in fact, precisely what they sound like. A math problem is shown on a board center stage, and if you approach via straightaway, you'll actually get to see it ahead of time and can start solving before you're even in the room, which is very good to do if you can. Around the room are multiple choice answers, 4 of them each, and you must pick the correct answer. Incorrect answers normally result in a small but noteworthy time penalty, but Ashley has a bonus perk that, should she issue an incorrect answer, no penalty is applied. This goes hand in hand with her faster speed, so when you play as Penny, you want to be a tiny bit more thoughtful about your approach. The next puzzle type is shapes, which is what it sounds like. Pick the correct shape displayed on the board. Easy. Next will be one of those playground contraptions with 9 numbers on it, usually in a random configuration upon your arrival. You simply need to make it count 1 to 9 or 9 to 1, going one way or the other. These will take time, but luckily your right click will spin the number down in addition to left clicks driving them up. Take your time and focus, as these are really the most demanding puzzles in the game, and neither character has an advantage on them. Lastly are negations, which are the same as math and shape puzzles except somewhat easier, because then it wants any of the 3 answers that would be incorrect. These are obvious at a glance because the answer has a big red line drawn through them, so grab anything other than what's shown and you're golden. Otherwise, just navigate the maze. There's multiple steps to a maze, and each one gets slightly longer, occasionally depositing you into a ghost town version of the restaurant. These are cooldown zones where you can stop and collect yourself, let go of shift for a moment, and they'll serve as checkpoints. Should you make a mistake, you'll resume from each of these as you progress. Also, there's lore notes and keys you'll need to collect in order to enter the next leg of the challenge. So take the plunge and rescue our little cat boy. Also, as an additional wrinkle, you can try out Endless Mode and test your skill. The McMillian Tree Lot is a more straightforward action game, and the second Christmas-themed ROM, but this one is significantly more mechanically demanding of the player's skills. Cynthia, our protagonist this go-around, with a shotgun in hand, must make her way from one end of the tree lot and back again several times to rescue a customer trapped in a hypnotic trance. The lights flicker on and off, effectively playing a sadistic game of red light, green light, and in the final run of the game, the lights just stay off permanently. The lanes are 2 parallel paths with trees interspersed, obscuring potential threats. I find the general way to stay safe is to snake left and right along the path as you go to sweep for threats. The thing to bear in mind here is there are 4 kinds of enemies, each with a different color-coded jacket on. The first type you'll meet are red, who only need 1 shot to go down, but are exclusively proximity-based. They will not move towards you until they feel you're close enough, but this can be dangerous because they can get the drop on you if you're careless about them. Just mind your periphery and watch out for them. Next are blue coats, who use cover of darkness to make a beeline for you. The upside here is that they'll expose themselves to long-range fire, and when they do so, it only takes 1 shot to stop them. After them come green coats, who follow the same basic patterns as the blue, but they'll require 2 shots, meaning just to defeat one, you'll need to put yourself at the brief mercy of the reload animation. You have limitless ammo, but you do need to reload after 2 shots in case that wasn't clear. Anyway, the last enemy type only appears in the final chase sequence when the lights go out for good, and they're clad in white. They will begin at the far end of the field and slowly pursue you non-stop, but the real problem is they cannot be defeated no matter how much lead you fill them with. Believe me, I tried. I think they also might be slower than the other types, but they never stop, so you'll want to simply keep a pace ahead of them. I'm decently certain that accepting the white coats, their placement is randomized, so there's no real strategy I can offer you beyond that. Weave and stay alert. No threats will spawn behind you, but it doesn't hurt to check back now and again, just to make sure that no one tries to ambush you. Stay alert, stay strapped, and you'll be ready for another Christmas season. And lastly, this takes us to the latest game, after quite the journey, the Fairview Files Episode 0. I'm gonna be honest, this one's a tiny bit luck-based, and there's not too much I can tell you that will alleviate that. But there are some tricks you can use. You're trying to use your shovel and the mystical orbs to find the keys to open the mausoleums in order to retrieve Ted's missing car keys. You'll be given a free orb to start and no ghosts to use it on immediately, so all you can do is get digging. The 5 keys are split up across the different segments of the map, so once you find one, you can go someplace else to continue. The key is to always start with the wooden coffins. If you encounter a black coffin first, dig around it to check for neighboring wooden ones. This is because the wooden coffins will contain a skeleton pointing in one direction or another, and wherever it's pointing is where the key resides. And I mean that as in the immediately neighboring plot where the skeleton is currently pointing. Don't do what I did when I first played and overthink this and spend 30 minutes not even understanding the core rules of the gameplay loop. It's much simpler than you might think. You need only to find one skeleton and follow his instructions 1 step in the direction he sends you. The key awaits you there. As you find keys, you can unlock the sequential mausoleums for additional energy orbs, but as you progress, the ghosts will begin spawning in, and as time goes on, they'll become more aggressive. They'll start by spawning in slowly floating in a straight line, and then despawning afterwards. As you collect the keys, they'll begin moving faster and more erratically, not necessarily giving up just after a straightaway. They shine lights in front of them to both warn the player and to indicate line of sight. If you can, retreat to a mausoleum to hide from them. If you can't, use an energy orb to disperse them. They're quick, and they only get quicker, so don't give them the chance. Should you make a mistake, the game places a checkpoint for each key and empties the lots that no longer are able to have keys, so it's not really the end of the world, and in some ways will make the game easier. Keep on the lookout for incoming ghosts, and always open wooden coffins first. That's the key to victory in this game. Focus, and you'll win in no time. And that brings us up to the minute. With this guide, you can now handle all of the Z Technician games to this point like a champ. If you're still listening at this point, please do that like, comment, subscribe thing. It helps me out a ton. And let me know which of these is your favorite. I'd be curious to know. Join me here each week for more Let's Plays, game guides, lore videos, and more. And I'll see you there.